want Liberian Loonstar, one of our players. I want Liberian Loonstar, got one of our players. Our Liberian people, we choose success. Our Liberian people, we choose success.
Success. Our Liberian people, we choose success. Wherever you play, wherever you go, the Liberian people, we choose victory, victory, victory. Musa gave us victory. Musa gave us victory. Musa gave us victory. Kaya pepe, 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 kaya pepe. To be a triple champion. I play Musa, please play Musa to be a triple champion. I play Musa, please play Musa to be a triple champion.
Shine yellow boys, shine yellow boys, shine yellow boys, shine yellow boys, shine yellow boys.
Liberian Darling Club, hey yeah. Liberian Golden Boys, hey yeah. Liberian Golden Boys, hey yeah. Liberian Yellow Boys, hey yeah. Liberian Darling Club, hey yeah. Liberian Golden Boys, Say ya.
Time has come for us to call of the occasion here. The honorable platform guest, His Excellency, the guest speaker, our mothers and sisters, officials and members of Felmausa present, and officials and members of the Lima present here, our host, fellow citizen of Liberia, ladies and gentlemen. We have been called upon to give a few words on the attributes and contribution of our guest speaker. The issue of keynote speaker and guest speaker and speaker. We have asked Mr. Bility to take the challenge to bring messages from our people back in Liberia. Mr. Bility is not a strange man in our community. Mr. Bility has been active in our community from the time probably all of us was a child. He has labored, has fought, has organized, has instituted a lot of measures that have brought a lot of relief to our people and after the war. Mr. Bility now serves the board of directors of the National Port Authority. Mr. Bility is also president and CEO of the most formidable Mandingo organization, the Mandingo Caucus. Mr. Bility has been instrumental in organizing and uniting our people in Monrovia as well. Take this time with no further ado to bring forward our most energetic, young, Honorable Musa Bility.
Thank you, Evie. Mr. Chairman and members of the organizing committee of this all-important conference, let me take this time to first and foremost thank you for your visionary decision to have us here today to talk about the future of our people in the United States. Before I start, I'm very sure that you are aware that along with me, I should have come with Professor Alhaji G.V. Kroma. Unfortunately, and after he had engaged himself seriously to ensure that he's here, circumstances beyond his control could not allow him to be here. He has asked me to convey to you, the organizers, his sentiment. He wants you to know that there is no greater task in our community today than the one that will unite us. And he assures you of his continued support in this process. It's also the message from the Executive Council of the National Mandingo Caucus of Liberia. When I was contacted to speak on this occasion, I thought to write a speech, and I did so. And I will be giving that speech to a guy in the IT department to publish it on the internet. But unfortunately, I cannot read that speech to you anymore, because between the time I wrote my speech and the time I reached in Philadelphia, so many things have distracted me. I was on the plane. When we changed plane in Brussels, I went into the cafe, and like any other person, I wanted to read my mails, and I read the internet. I was even further distracted. So between Brussels and New York, I spent those 7 hours pointing down some point that I thought we should discuss here tonight. I have not come from Liberia to heap praises on myself or anybody else. I have come to share with you our experience, to be with you as we did when we embarked upon organizing the National Mandingo Caucus of Liberia. The first thing that came to my mind was to find out from ourselves as to what lessons we have learned. And the idea of this conference, whether it succeeds or not, I can assure you that it's a noble one. The people, the community in Liberia, they are very much excited. Please, don't let them down. We are tired of polarizing ourselves, waging proxy war on each other, and it is time that we move from all the shadows and stand up as a political force in the Republic of Liberia. And given our own experience, like I said, I did not come to praise anyone. This is a conference which I assume is consultative. So by that, we're here to share ideas with one another, so that from here we can correct the mistake. Those mistakes that could have been corrected, we can correct them. And there are certain factors that I want us to consider. I was not happy that the organizers of this conference were not able, up to now, 2 years since we were last in Philadelphia. I was not happy that the issue has not been resolved. Why do I call Limana? Some of you know, some of you don't know. But maybe because you are in America. But Limani means a lot to us. They have championed. They were our voices when no one could hear us. And we have tried and tried for the issue to be resolved. And I was very, very disappointed when I saw that there was a publication on the Limano website, which I read yesterday. I don't know when it got there, saying that Limano will not be here. I know that there are other people in Limani that are here today a significant portion of the money. But I also thought that we should throw the challenge to the organizers of this conference and the eventual leaders of this organization to try to resolve that issue. The other things I wanted to do is to talk about our past leaders, those who have led us at one time or the other. So, some of them we know. Some of them we don't like. Some of them we like. Let's talk, for instance, first and foremost, about Dr. Edward B. Kesseley. We must honor him, for he's the first one to the Liberian political scene that are ready and capable to lead Liberia. He did so. He was the founder of the party that is ruling Liberia today. And it's very important that you know that, because that is a pride to our community. At all times, we need to honor those leaders. How many Liberians know today that Unity Party was funded by a Madingo man? Not many Liberians know. We need to let other Liberians know that, and we ourselves need to know that. Following down the year, let's go to Professor Alhaji J.B. Kroma. No matter how you feel, no matter how you think, when the NPFL came to Liberia and pushed our people out of Liberia, when we felt that we were no longer part of that country, a voice came from nowhere and gave hope to our people. The voice was the voice of Alhaji J.B. Kroma. Is not because if I don't say A, I will not speak. Not because I need anything. The community will not go anywhere. And I mean anywhere if we don't honor those who have sacrificed their life to lead us. If you come Jamanda here, we are all aware that there was no critic, but those were the time. When things settle down, you have to give honor to where honor is due. Something happened to Alhaji today. It happened to him, or because he was information minister of the Republic of Liberia, or because he is a professor at the University of Liberia. It's simply because he championed the cause. Having said that, we also need, as a community, to acknowledge that in the quorum of honor for our leaders, there are voices of dissent. of those who don't agree with our leaders. There are those who will never agree with our leaders. We will never be a society that will be successful until we agree to disagree among ourselves. We must recognize and respect the opinion of people who stand up against us, somebody else, our opinion and our position. If we don't do that, we will never succeed. I also want to go and talk about civil democratic corner. Of all the leaders in the last 25 years, no particular person's effort has benefited our people and our country more than this man. Why do I say so? It was his movement that finally drove Taylor out of here. He did it, and from the time he did it up to the time of the transitional government and election and now this government, he never backtracked on any promise that he made to the international community there in Liberia. But we must honor him. We're made to invite him. But I think it is important that you highlight his achievement before other people do. The other point I wanted to raise tonight is to talk about our generation. This generation. The generation that is taking over the leadership of our community today. I just want you to look at yourself 16 years ago and realize, take that 16 years from the age of the people that were leading us 60 years ago. Then you realize that you too have come of age to rule. It is your time, and it is now. Because right behind you, there is another generation. If you don't, they will come and take it from you. There is something that is going on in the United States among our people, which is very disturbing, because I would like to announce to you that the last Ramadan in Liberia, one evening, Alaji called me, Alaji Koma. He said, Musa, where are you? I said, I'm home. He said, I'm coming to you. When he got to my house, we were having dinner, and the next day was prayer day. Then he said, you being the president of the Madingo Caucus, what's about calling all our political leaders to come to your house? We drive together, we go to Jigota and pray together. I said, well, we'll try it. He said, try it. But in the morning, I call everybody. Just the Janet, Brother Lucini Kamara, Justice Sako, Sebu Kone, I called everybody. And they all responded. They came and we went to Jacob Town to pray. When our people saw us together that day, some of the old men and women, our old men and women, they cried. They say, we never thought that you people would do this. We went back after prayer and we sat down to show an example at that meeting. I have it on video. I will give it out to the organizers of this conference. And he said, I want everybody in this room and everybody anywhere else, whatever I might have done to you, I want everybody to forgive me. If you are not a leader, you can never possess the characteristic to say, I'm sorry. And he did that. But it is surprising to note in the United States that we are still fighting a proxy war. We're still using Alaji Kromani, Sekou Demati Kone, Imon Soya to fight each other. When the names that we are using are no longer at war, you are the one in America, you are the one that is beyond time. We have already unified ourselves in Liberia. It is you. You are the one that will divide our society again. I left Liberia Friday night. I was with Alhaji on the 2 o'clock Thursday in the morning. We together. We do things together. We do business together. If you look at me today, not because I'm one of you, but do I look like somebody who can be proxiting for another person? Can't you see that I'm able to be my own man? In Liberia, the person who owns the largest network of radio station and television, the person who supervises the largest single entity in any agency in Liberia cannot be proxiting for somebody else. And here, I hate to say it, but it is time that people of our generation stand up behind their own principle and preach and agree to disagree with one another and stop using the name of people who have served our community in their time. It is fair if A.B. Kroma disagrees with me. It's fair for him to say, I disagree with Musa. But it is unfair for A.B. to say that I disagree with Musa because he's representing the idea of Ellie Johnson Sally. That's not fair. To say Vavle Dole is promoting Alaji Kroma. The issue with Vavle Dole, tell him that Vavle Dole, I don't agree with you. Don't say he's a proxy. And I will be disappointed if Vavle Dole becomes a proxy for somebody, because the Vavle Dole I know is his own man. For us to take over the leadership of our community. Those who have served us have served their time. This is our time. I will say this as many times as I have to. And the reason is very simple. If you don't sell yourself, the market will not buy you. In Liberia, we formed the National Mandingo Caucus. We included everybody. We made copies of our preamble and dash it before every mosque. And it took 3 months, because that's what we told the people, that this document we are drafting will receive comment for 3 months. That is why, since the formation of the National Mandingo Caucus, there has never been a splinter organization formed, because we saw it in the beginning and we ensure that all interests are protected. For instance, those of us who are the founding leaders of the National Mandingo Caucus, we are not eligible to run for election when election comes up. We do that so that we will not perpetrate ourselves into power. And we have room for past leaders. That's what we call the National Executive Council. Your organization here will fail if you don't include everybody. There are some people that refuse to come today. There are some people from Limani notably, even if they are in minute part, it is still a challenge, because you cannot afford for any visible disagreement from the beginning. If you do that, you have a long way to go. Now, we come to something that I want to call warning ourselves. If all we're trying to do in forming our association is to reignite order, is to reignite fuel that existed before, we are bound to fail. You must understand that it's been 17 years since the war in Liberia started, and we have reconciled ourselves. Your brothers and sisters in Liberia, I don't know about disagreement in family or money business, but we don't have any political disagreement. I have taken us apart, at least for the last 18 months. Then it comes to what you are looking for. Are you looking for unity and peace, or are you looking for a common goal? Unity and peace is a war that you will agree with me has eluded the entire universe. That's not what we should look for. We should seek a common goal, so that in that goal there are people who believe left, there are people who believe right, and yet our common belief is to take our community forward. And that's what we should look for here in this organization. There is one bad thing that is almost a characteristic of being a Mandingo. if other people start something simply because you did not participate in the beginning, you feel that you should not be part of it anymore. That is terribly wrong with us. And those who are not here tonight, those who are not informed, by mistake or oversight, they should not feel that this organization is born and therefore we shouldn't do anything anymore and we should just leave it with them. They're just going to come up as another organization and fall again. We should start that. We should support this cause and make sure it works, because your people back home, they are listening to you. Monday morning, you're going to go on your website, you're going to see what you have put together, you're going to see what leaders you have elected, you're going to see whether you look for leaders that will divide you or the leaders that will unite you. They are watching you every step of the way. And the Executive Council of the National Mathematical Caucus extend this to you also. I want our people in the United States to pay keen attention to this. Hindering our future, education. A lot of us have found our way in America, but the statistics shows that about 80% of those who come to America from our community, even when they were in school, abandon school when they come here. That is a danger. We have to find a way to change that. We can't afford that. Every time you see the website, you see somebody has mastered it, it's because we are a community. But if you look at the actual statistics, 80% are not going to school or have no plan to go to school. If you don't change that, everything that you are doing now is going to end in vain. And in this vein, I want to particularly thank Brother Amara Kone. Why do I thank Amara Kone? Amara has made us proud. He went back to Liberia. He worked excellently well. Today, Amara is joining the elite club in Liberia. They call it the Harvard Club. You should be very, very proud. There are less than 15 to 25 Liberians that graduated from Harvard. And we should be proud that one of our own, one of our generation, is going to join that group very, very soon. I want to thank the organizers, our old people, the women, the mothers, the fathers, for doing this. We also want to thank all of you that have come from various states to come so that we can have peace among ourselves, so that we can unite our community, so that the people back home can stop hearing the bickering that you are having on the internet. It is disturbing them. It is disturbing them. And I hope and pray that God will guard the people who you have selected tonight to lead you from here. And may God bless all of us and God bless Liberia.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bility, for that powerful speech. I'm pretty sure, brief. Honorable Strider, the Mayor's Commission on Caribbean Affairs, distinguished platform guests, members of the combined and various individual delegations from all across the United States of America. It is my greatest honor to present one of our own,
in the person of Brother Abu Masale. The brother was born onto the union of the late Muhammad Masale and Mrs. Musa Masale in Liberia. Brother Masale went through several educational journeys, from the Walker Public School in Wixford, Lofa County, to the WVS Tubman High School, and to the University of Liberia. He completed his bachelor's degree at the University of Liberia in chemistry and minor in biology. He later enrolled at the A.M. Douglaty College of Medicine at the University of Liberia, where he graduated with Doctor of Medicine in the year 1998. He transitioned to the United States in the year 2000. Currently, Dr. Masale is coordinator of an agency providing support to individuals with developmental disabilities. Brother Masale is happily married with 2 children. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my greatest honor to bring forward Brother Abu Masale. Let's give a big round of applause.
Mr. Stanley L. Strata, Chairman of the Mayor's Commission on African and Caribbean Immigrant Affairs of Philadelphia, our distinguished brother Musa, who traveled from Liberia, Mr. Chairman and members of the Convention Committee, Mr. President and officers of LAMAP and distinguished President of Mandingo Associations in Americas, distinguished heads and members of sisterly organizations here present, distinguished heads and members of Mandingo sister clubs, Lanaya, Benkoma, Millionaire, etc., etc. Mr. President and members of Liberian Association of Pennsylvania, if present, distinguished platform guests, ladies and gentlemen. Just before I delve into the substance of my address this evening, I'd like to commend Brother Musa Bility. Exercise that we have been battling and falling with over the past few weeks to culminate this exercise into next activity. Usually, it is not a good thing to follow a wonderful speech by another wonderful speech. The tendency is that you will dilute the essence and the significance of the message that was delivered. And you can see that every aspect of it is very cogent and is very, very important. Even though I have a 6-page document to present, which I believe is very important, and for the time stress and the emphasis laid on the essence of tonight's activity, I will try to be brief and I will go directly to the point. I was fortunate to witness the traditional evening yesterday, and I benefited from the wisdom that was shared by speakers. To paraphrase some of the views I had heard, you will have the following. 1. This convention is being held to bring relief to suffering brothers and sisters in refugee camps around the world and those back home. 2. Our community unity is necessary to honor the efforts and sacrifices made by our brothers and sisters so that we might walk with dignity in Liberia and everywhere for that matter. Conflict persists in Mandingo community today because we often sacrifice the very truth that serves as solution to our disputes. The Liberian Mandingo experience should serve as a lesson to Mandingos everywhere, especially in La Côte d'Ivoire and other African countries. Mandingo seafarers visited the New World many years before Christopher Columbus. And one of the speakers quoting her father said, quote, that if you are a one-tooth person, at least let that tooth shine. And that statement was made by a convertible. Especially so when the above speakers could have done a more marvelous job. Thank you for my preferment. The past few weeks leading to this convention have been very busy. We witnessed energetic discussions in private homes and regular meetings about the right and the proper way to go about this Mandingo convention. In fact, the internet received unprecedented literary outpour from the Mandingo intelligentsia, just propounding the merits and demerits of this undertaking. Teleconferences and cross-fertilization of ideas and opinions abound. The passion of all parties was palpable, but the collective actions after this exercise is our responsibilities. We will be judged after the formation of the Mandingo Federation. And in view of the above, permit me to share with you my thoughts on the subject, quote, Federation of Liberian Mandingo Association in the USA, a beacon in the diaspora. It is no secret that a dream being realized today started at least as a thought process long ago, and pioneers in that endeavor are here today. And I'd like to thank them in this public manner and to recognize their effort. I also like to acknowledge the contribution being made by various Mandingo websites around the world. For once, our uncensored views, our thoughts, and our challenges, as well as our aspirations, are broadcast to the world through this media, and it is endearing. In no less measure, tribute is also due to those who maintain and update these websites. Fairly recent, some of our brothers were languishing behind bars in subhuman conditions on orders of tyrannical Taylor and his henchmen. Advocacy and human rights stalwarts amongst our people sounded a clarion call to the world at large for the need to take action and bring pressure to bear on the kakistocracy. In Liberia today, this situation has been well contained. Tonight, Hassan inhaled these. To so many, tributes are due, but the luxury of time is not on our side, and therefore I beg to indulge to do a generic salute and homage to those who have striven and continue to strive for the civil liberties of our people. As we convene the Mandingo Convention under the theme, Community Unity and Empowerment in Post-War Liberia, many events have bubbled in post-war Liberia which are notable for tonight's reflection. Some of you honorable members of the audience are more open with these developments than the speaker. In post-war Liberia today, Liberians are returning to their homes, to their farms, and to their mining agencies with the hope of restarting life. The case is not the same for Liberian Mandingos in many parts, especially in Nimba County. The remnants of Mandingo real estate remain occupied by quote-unquote squatters who continue to issue threats to Mandingos attempting to return to these properties. This is unimaginably outrageous. At a time when our highest institution of learning need the brightest, need the brightest among us, so as to mold the minds of our future leaders, especially those heavily traumatized by our prolonged strife, some members of the university faculty staged a dramatic boycott of classes following the selection of Dr. Hassan to head this all too familiar institution. Dr. Conte, a contemporary scholar and alumnus, several time visiting lecturer, chosen from a cadre of competent peers, was rejected before he could even be welcomed onto the university campus. What is the problem? You know the answer. At the moment, LU is closed.
Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2.
At the moment, LU is closed, classes suspended, students are awaiting buses to commute to and from campuses, faculty awaits back pay and benefits. We await the amicable resolution of this. The case of Honorable Lucini Dozo at the Ministry of Public Works at the confirmation hearing is also noteworthy. Though a cabinet colleague of the president in the deposed Tobas government, he was preferred for a subordinate cabinet capacity. As this was not a shock enough for him, he was directly asked about his U.S. nationality. The affirmative response to which tabled his approval for a protracted period. I wonder when last did U.S. citizenship matters in Liberia? Similarly, the overwhelming majority of Liberian Mandingos followed developments surrounding the confirmation of Attorney Kabine Jane to the Supreme Court bench. Well-sponsored individuals and groups greeted his confirmation hearings with avalanche of accusations, name-calling, and several innuendos with the ultimate objective to prevent his sitting on the national pedestal. These individuals and groups did not consider the sterling credentials of former student activist Attorney Kabine Jane, including Minister of Justice and Attorney General, as well as acting President Republic of Liberia. We however witnessed a carte blanche reception that ushered his colleagues to their seats. Our Mandingo appointees in Liberia, the targets of the harshest tests and discriminatory scrutinies, are asked. You will recall the incidents at the Division of Passport Ministry of Foreign Affairs, in which some young fellows bearing last names like Amara, Kroma, Kone, Bility, Sharif, etc., who accused the passport section of denying them Liberian passport because of their last names. One will think that at such time, objective criteria should be in the place so that citizens are not only fairly treated, but should feel equally treated. In one of my sessions, I came across a part of Liberian history from a Liberian website called the Liberian Collection Projects, quote unquote. Please listen. The third major population which settled in Liberia after the Mel and the Cross speakers was the Mande speaking people. Who seem to have moved out of western savannah into the forest region. Within Liberia, there are three branches of Mande language people: the Ma, Mano, the Dan, Giyo, speakers of the Southern Division Mande, were probably the earliest group to penetrate and settle in the forest region. The second Mande group speaking people to enter this region was the Southern Division speakers called the Kwele, the Loma, the Bandi, and the Mende. The third group of Mandingo speakers was the Vai, which settled in the northern Manding area. This list, which is on the website, completely exclude Mandingos as a collection and the principal Mandingo group in the Manding speaking people. I was taken aback by this exclusion of Mandingo from the tribes of Liberia. I wonder what this publisher did and why they did not read Professor C. Abayomi Kassel's history of the first African Republic. Tribal life in Liberia, in which he clearly Mandingo as one of the Liberian tribes. In fact, Professor Cassell says, quote, as this volume covers the period between the founding of Liberia and the end of the 19th century, we shall deal herein only with those tribes with which the government came into direct contact and had influence upon during this period. The Golas, the Mandingos, the Batos, the Grebos, the Vais, and possibly the Queles, quote unquote. You know, the Liberian collection projects need to consult, quote, to Musa on page 94 to 96 of the Liberia's past and present by Dr. Nathaniel Richardson. This will give them eyewitness account of those who live in Liberia during those periods. This evening, my challenges and prayer. This reflection above speaks to highlight our ongoing challenges in Liberia. And as a beacon in the faraway diaspora, we need to work harder and harder so that we can be able to protect the rights and defend the rights of our people. From time to time, the beacon needs to throw spotlights on issues of national relevance, especially those issues we seek to deprive our people of their inalienable rights. I'd like to close by congratulating everyone for this monumental undertaking, and I pray that Allah will safely return you to your community as you continue your progressive endeavor. Always, peace. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you very much, Mr. Masari, for...
Ladies and gentlemen, can we please stand up and welcome our honorable guest speaker of this occasion, Dr. Agustin Connor. Let me say good evening to everyone. Good evening to you, everyone. I'm doing wonderful. What about you? You all look so pretty. Let me start by bringing greetings from who would have been here with me. Musa cannot make the trip because he just had his mom pass not too long ago. And he wanted me to express his regret that he's not able to make it. So, Mr. President, Felmausa, members of the executive, various Mandingo organizations from Chicago, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and other parts of the United States. Our friends who are here with us, and invited guests, all of most important people that I've ever met in the world that are sitting up on the platform, fellow Liberians, and friends of Liberia. Let me begin by saying that how gratified I am that you honor me with this opportunity to deliver the keynote speech for what I consider a very historic and auspicious occasion. When I got a call from the Secretary, Brother Maurice Connect, I thought what an honor that's been bestowed upon me. So I came here tonight, first as a Liberian nationalist, but second, as a member of the Mandingo ethnic group. So I want you to know how glad I am to be here. And like I told my brothers and sisters, usually I don't go to speak in any place if at least in
they need to give me about $2,000, but I said, well, since the Baligo people got so much money, they're going to give me $4,000. No, I'm just joking. But I'm really glad to be here. But I want to thank some special people for making this effort possible, and particularly for helping me to get here and to make me have a good time. I've had a wonderful time. I've eaten so much food. I know by the time I leave here, I'm going to put on 50 pounds. But that's not bad at all. First, I want to thank the Secretary, Maurice Conner, who I want to thank Brother Bility, who took me to the hotel and took me to Brother Kroma. So delicious, it was so wonderful. And I also want to thank the treasurer for the local Madingo Association here in Wisconsin, Milwaukee. We went over to our house and we also had food. So we've just been eating food all the time. In fact, I said to my brother, A.E. Kroma, I said, how are we going to get this weight out after we leave this place? What it's been asked me to address is post-Civil War Liberia. I want to begin by saying that we cannot understand community unity and empowerment in post-Civil War Liberia except that we are able to view community unity and empowerment in Liberia within the context of the Liberian state. And for us to talk about the current state of Liberia, we must look at certain indicators that will give us an image about what the current state of Liberia is today. And for that reason, I want to look at 3 indicators very briefly. One, I want to look at the educational sector of Liberia. Second, I want to look at the health sector. And then third, I want to talk a little bit about the economy sector. What is the current state of the educational system in Liberia today? Let me suggest to you that the current state of the Liberian education today is in flux. Why do I say this? The residual effect of the 14 years war and the prevailing socio-economic and political conditions continue to impact on the standard and the quality of education of Liberia today. This situation is exacerbated by poor school facilities. It's exacerbated by inadequate trained teachers. It's exacerbated by the lack of basic textbooks and school supplies, and exacerbated by overcrowding. Even our higher institutions of learning were not even spared by this war. They were all affected. For example, I was just in Liberia not too long ago. If we take the University of Liberia, for example, it does not have any functioning library. It's the case for Covington University, it's the same case for the Methodist University, but even to make matters worse, the problems of the country, for example, unemployment, the high rate of unemployment and crime, the problem of water supply, the problem of electricity, all of these do have adversely effect on the educational system, but not only on the educational system, on our youth and their parents. So what we're seeing here, that the problems of the educational system, it's so problematic that even the president of Liberia surmised about the problems that we do have, and I want to quote her. This is what she says. Over the years, our educational system has produced a lot of graduates, relatively few trained people. This is because of the low quality of teaching staff and the lack of textbooks and school equipment. Recent conditions, including the tendency to buy promotion and degrees, have exacerbated these problems. As a result, the majority of those graduating from our colleges and universities hardly possess a high school equivalent education and are woefully unequipped to compete in an environment of their peers worldwide. The literacy program, therefore, important as it is, could also be revamped. Why? Since literacy without some form of skills can hardly result in a major contribution to development. So we see here the problem that lies ahead in the educational system. Let's take the health sector. When we look at the indicators that are available in terms of health and nutrition, Liberia indicator is amongst the worst in the world. Infant mortality rate is high. It's about 134 per 1,000, meaning that for every 1,000 children that are going to be born, about 134 of them will die. The maternal mortality ratio extremely high. But not only that, malnutrition is widespread. Communicable disease, very widespread. In fact, when we look at the indicators, we find out that only less than 10% of Liberians do have access to quality health care. The Liberian health care suffered from damage. Not only that it suffered from damage, it suffered from lack of funds and equipment. Not only it suffered from lack of funds and equipment, it suffered from the deterioration of support system. But not only that, it suffered from attrition and low kind of support for the motivation of the workforce. So we see here that when we look at the statistics, we can even go further that from 5 to 12% of the population of Liberia do have HIV/AIDS. This is not confirmed because we're not able to do the kind of methodology that we need to do to come up with a precise percentage. But it's also very alarming that 13% of our children are orphanage. And out of these 13%, about 36,000 of them would incur HIV/AIDS. So the point that I'm making here, that the healthcare system is in trouble. Prior to the war in Liberia, we can talk about more than 500 doctors in that country. At the eve of the war, we now have one doctor to 9,000 people, and one nurse to 1,400 people. So we see how difficult the healthcare system is. What about the economic system? We can say that the economic system, particularly during the war, can be described as a war economy. What do I mean by that? That the economy was looted and controlled by warlords. Just to give you an example, and there's a statistics that came out in 2004, that out of the 46.2 million that came out from logging, it never benefited the Liberian people, it only benefited Mr. Taylor and his cronies. So we see here that the economy is in flux. But not only that the economy is in flux, there's some neglection with regards to certain sectors, for example, the agricultural sector. And many people told me when I was in Liberia that had it not been for many of the Liberians in this country that were sending back monies to Liberia, we would have had a bigger problem today. So what I'm trying to say, that the economy is also in trouble. And because of that, we need to revamp the economy. We need to be able to take back the agricultural sector so that those who can produce will be able to produce and get their products and have access to the market. We need to be able to revamp the economy so that we can have the economy to employ the large segments of 85% of our people that are not employed. So we see here that when we look at the indicators, the picture is gloomy. And then you say, what is the state of the Mandingos in all of this? I will suggest to you that if the current state of Liberia is as I've just hinted, I will say that the current state of the Mandingo will reflect what the current state of Liberia is. What do I mean? It is the saying that the fruit is not far from the tree. The fruit is the Mandingo. The tree is Liberia. If that tree is on shaky ground, then the Mandingo ethnic group is also in shaky ground. So then the question becomes, what then do we need to do? Yes, as Mandingo people, we can recount our history. We can talk about how our forefathers came from the Upper Niger, Guinea Highlands. We can talk about how they established themselves in those areas that became the hinterland of Liberia. And because of their economic prowess and because of their entrepreneurial skills, were able to profoundly change the course of history and influence the culture of the hinterland. And as a result of this economic prowess, we were called all kinds of names. We were called the Jews of West Africa. We are the people that control the destiny of other people. We live and move the standard of living of other people. But that is our history. And that history is in the past. And the past is yesterday. For tomorrow is here, and we have to begin to look at the future. Because if we want our history to be respected, we must now forget about the past or build upon the past and look up to the future. The question then becomes, what do we need to do for the future? I will submit that we need to empower ourselves. And tonight what I want to do is to give you some recipe for empowerment. I want to look at some tools of empowerment. What are the tools of empowerment? The first tool of empowerment that I want to talk to you about starts with 3 things. And what are those 3 things? They are the same. Education, education, education. And not only education, but good education. Why? Because the philosopher says, good education is a guarantee for upward mobility anywhere in the world. And that's why today I am very proud when I see some of our brothers and sisters who have excelled, even here in the United States. I can understand that they have good education. But Malcolm X also said it right, that education is the passport for the future. And even the great father of soul, the late James Brown, said it, without education you might just be dead. So education is very important. Why is education important for the Mandingo people? Because it will allow us to compete globally. Why education is very important for Mandingos? Because it will allow us to compete locally, economically, politically, and socially in Liberia. You might ask me, what education do we need? I will submit to you that the education that we need is one that's got skills. And what education is that? First, we need an education of high tech. We need an education of health. And we need an education of science. Why? Even today, when you look at, and when we were at Mr. Kroma's house, he asked me the question of one of our brothers that now works with the president at the mansion. He's doing a program at Harvard. He was the only one that the president could call upon when it comes to high tech. His name is Amara Connie. Why? Because he had high tech. So we need an education of high tech, but we also need an education of health and an education of science. Why? So that we can go and cure our people of the various diseases that plague the Liberian nation. So the first education we need is that of high-tech science and health. But we need a second education, and that education is rooted in agriculture. Why in agriculture? Because we can go back now and feed our own people. Liberia was a nation that could feed itself, but because of what we have gone through, we are now not able to feed ourselves even with our staple food. What happened? We now have to import staple food from the United States, from China, and from other places. It means if we as a people cannot feed ourselves, we stand in a very shaky ground. So we need an education that is built upon agriculture. But thirdly, we need an education that is built upon engineering. Why? Because we need to go back and build those roads and construct those bridges. We do not need to depend on other people to come to Liberia to build this work for us. We must empower ourselves with these kinds of skills. And if we do that, we will be able to change the course of history in Liberia. So the first set of skills that we need is just what I've told you about. But we also need other kinds of empowerment. What other kind of educational empowerment we need? We need an educational empowerment that will tell us about our rights. As Madingo people, what is our right? We need to have an education that will enable us to engage civically. Civic engagement is very important. In fact, as we were talking, someone mentioned about the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. In Atlanta, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, I'm proud of it. Why? Because I don't want other people to come and tell us about our own story. I want us to go and tell our own story, how we have been persecuted, how we've been neglected. But unless we tell our own story, nobody will know our story. And if we don't tell our story, guess what's going to happen? We stand the risk of extermination and negligence. So we need to be a part of it. But we need another kind of education. What education do we need? An education that makes us to empower our own women. The education of sexism. Our women are not drums to be beaten upon. Our women are our co-partners. We love them, they're beautiful, and we must make sure that we respect them. And unless we have the kind of education that will make us not to think that way, we'll continue to do that. But there's a second tool of education, of empowerment that we need. The second tool of empowerment that we need is the development of a strong leadership. The development of a strong leadership. What kind of leadership that I'm talking about? A leadership that is transformational. But not only that, a leadership that is transformational, a leadership that has a vision. Not only that a leadership that has a vision, but a leadership that's got direction. Not only is a leadership that's got direction, but a leadership that will take lofty goals that will be achievable. That's the kind of leadership that we need. And what's the strategy for this kind of leadership? The strategy for this kind of leadership starts with the family. So that means a good leadership should be built upon the foundation of the family. Why? Because the family is the training ground for good leadership. If you can take care of your family, you can take care of us. If you can take care of small things, you can take care of big things. So family values are very important. What kind of leadership that we need? We need a leadership that will find a way to build youth leadership institutes. Why? Because we need to invest on our young people. Listen to the song. Children are our future. Don't you know that? We need to invest in them. Listen to what the great philosopher said. We can invest in marbles. We can invest in cars. We can invest in houses. But guess what will happen? All of these shall perish. But if you invest in mortal mind, it will live forever and persevere, and it will move on from generation to generation. We all can invest all the talents today. I know the question that we're going to ask, how can we do this? There's some of you, I know you have done that. I give you a little bit of story that what happened. I came to the United States to do a master's and a PhD. And by the time I was finishing my master's and PhD, then there was the war in Liberia. So then there was no place to go because I was going to return to Covington where I was going to take a position. And so what did I do? I said to myself, I've made a pledge that when I finish my degrees, I'm going to go back to Liberia. So I left the United States, not knowing where to go, decided to go to Sierra Leone and look for the refugee camp where Liberians are, and went to Kenema and began to make a contribution by taking our young people to various schools in Kenema and negotiate with the Sierra Leone government so that they can all be absorbed into the system, even though many of them did not have shoes, even though many of them did not have uniforms, even though many of them did not have even tuition to pay. And I stayed there and worked with them for a very long period of time. In fact, that's where I met Brother Ahmed Salif. And then, when I returned to the United States, I said to myself, what else can I do? I have to look for a job. And I got a job with Morehouse College. And I got the commitment of Morehouse and Spelman College to give scholarship to our young talents, both men and women, to come to the United States and to advance themselves. We have about 40 of our young people who have now graduated from Morehouse and Spelman, and some of them have returned. And tonight I'm very proud to see that one of those young people, Mr. Kasumu Sila, that I brought to Morehouse, came to Morehouse, graduated, and went back home and made a contribution for 1 year. And now he's back to further his education to do a master's degree. So we all can invest in our young people. How can we invest in them? And where do we get the money? Yes, we can get the money. All it takes is the willingness to do it. All it takes is sacrifice. Think about how much money we use for the weekends. Think about how much money that we use to go to the movies. Think about how much money that we use to go to the clubs. If we all tonight can say, I take a pledge that I'll give $1 a day, I'll give $1 a week, I'll give $1 a month, guess what? Before we know it, we'll be able to generate a fund that will allow us to invest into our young people. So this is my challenge to you tonight, that forget about the club, forget about the movies. Why? Because we need that money to invest on our young people. So I want to challenge you tonight to begin to think about that. But what else do we need? We need a leadership that will refrain from all of the other problems we know about. Corruption, the problems of lawlessness. One of the things that I've observed, that as Madingo people, we are beginning to forget our values and traditions. now that we are in this great United States, that tell you that this is the greatest freedom in the world that you have ever seen. And as a result, we're now beginning to backbite each other. We're now beginning not to respect each other. Let me say to you that unity is strength, and that united we stand, and divided we fall. We do not all have to agree in terms of the policies, in terms of what needs to be done, but we all can tolerate each other's opinion so that we can build a united force. Why? Because that's what is important. Malcolm X said it very well. How can we say that we love others when we do not even love ourselves? It will be very impossible for us to do that. But lastly, let me say this, and I want to say that I was very much proud that we went to the mosque this afternoon and began to settle some of our disputes. I think it's a good beginning, because Freddie Douglass said it very well. If we do not stop to reflect about who we are with regards to where we are coming from and where we are going, then we do not need to exist. Because we can be critical of other people, but to be critical of oneself, it's something else. And that's why I cherish the wonderful discussion. I was saying to Brother Bamba, you know, somebody called him while we were sitting down talking about all these issues, and he said to the person, don't you know we are now engaged in an intellectual discourse? Can you believe? The brother knows so much book. Huh? We are engaged in an intellectual discourse for our own unity. And so we need to come together as a people. But lastly, we need to have a leadership of collaboration. What do I mean by collaboration? We need to be able to foster, and Brother Bility said it, we need to foster relationship with other ethnic groups. But not only that, we need to foster relations with other ethnic groups, we need to forge alliances. We need to have inter-ethnic and inter-religious alliances. Why? Because that's the only thing that's going to help us to move what we're doing collectively. We need to come to people that share with our vision, people that share with our interests, so that we can collectively move Liberia on the right path. So I call upon this leadership to begin to reach out to other ethnic groups, not in the spirit of weakness, but in the position of strength, because we are the agents of change in Liberia, and now we can help. So let me say lastly, Mr. President, members of the platform, friends and others, that what empowers people is their training. What empowers people is their preparedness. What empowers people is their diligence. What empowers people is their commitment. But what empowers people is their willingness to reach out to others. For together, we will do all of this that we want to do. So I call upon you today, so that if we begin to think about some of these things that I have raised, that we'll begin to put things together and we'll be able to accomplish whatever goals that we want to accomplish. With that I say, long live Liberia, long live the Mandingo people, and may God bless us all. I'm kind of confused because tonight I'm honored to be the installing officer of the Federation of the Liberian Association of Mandingos in the United States. I am excited because please sit down in the audience. I'm excited and confused because I share the stage with a powerful speaker who has taken almost everything I thought I was going to say between me in that condition. Who happened to be another brother, Kone. I also share a stage with my own brother who brought me to the United States, who is also president of the Liberian Medical Association in Chicago, Mohammed Kone. And then I share the same stage with the president-elect of the Federation of the Liberian Association of Madingos in the United States, Mr. Richmond Kone. So I am kind of confused. But anyway, from the guest speaker's speech, of the role you have to play in the Madingo community. From the guest speaker's address, you get to know the challenges that lie ahead of you. Are you willing to be a leader of the Federation of Madingos in the United States, who will be willing to bridge the gap that lay between our parents and us? Our parents taught us. They wrote the religion of Islam, put it under their mark so that we will see it. And that's why we did not forget Islam. Most of us today carry Islam because we saw what they wrote. Our parents taught us how to be good people, so we never forget how to be good. But one thing our parents did not do for us was to write the role they played in creating the country they call Liberia. They did not write that history and leave it for us to read. So that's why no one knows the effort of the Madingo people in building Liberia. History will come and talk about Kinsao, Boswe, Kamara. But most of those histories that were written, they are not there. They brought them in the United States here or in other areas of Europe. So you do not have them in Liberia. So when you talk about Madingo made a settlers to settle, very few people know. Because our parents did not read those things for us. Those who wrote it, according to the guest speaker, was to their interest. Because there was nobody to protect our interest in that part of the history. And that's why we did not have anything. So are you willing to take that challenge? And your children will come and learn.
Yes.
Are you willing to take that challenge? So that your children, our children will come and understand that in the Liberian society, when Madingo people say Adiasa, where does that mean? Are you going to write that and leave it for them so that they don't find the streets? Are you willing to take the challenge to tell the Liberian people that, look, when Charles Taylor ran out of this country, they planned for more than 10 years trying to kill us. But we struggled, we came back, and we created an opening where Madingo men could come back. When Alhaji Kroma and the boys who died for our nation, the Ulingo board, to come and rescue us, to say, we are part of history. Are you willing to read that and put it in history so that it will be there? So that it will not be forgotten again? It is life. To form the interfaith committee, to say, let's come together and stop this thing, and people ignore it. And today, when everybody Richards and other religious leaders from the Christian side were being killed, people say, oh, there's a need to form the interfaith committee. Sheikh Abdullah Kone is not counted in the history of Liberia as far as documents are concerned. When they talk about peace process, are you willing to read documents so that the people, our generation will come, our children will come and learn that yeah, when the peace process was coming, Sheikh Abdullah was the one who initiated, he's a Madingo man. Are you willing to take the challenge to say no? Despite everything that happened to Charles Taylor, he would not have left. It was the same Madingo people who said no, we can't leave him and we'll have to run him out of the country. Are you willing to take the challenge to read those documents so that our children will come and meet them there, so that they will not forget? If you are willing to take on those challenges, then I want you to raise up your hand so that you can swear with this statement. Please recite after me. And if I say ah, please refer to your names. If I say position, there's individual positions that you are occupying in the Federation of Liberia Association. So it goes. In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most beneficent. Do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully and conscientiously execute the duties and responsibility of the position of the Federation of the Liberian Association in the United States of America to the best of my knowledge. I will strive to protect and defend the interests of our federation in accordance of its bylaws and constitution. So Allah guide me, protect me, and direct me.
Yelema so, be my yelema so. Yelema